Hello, everyone. Welcome to day 3 of week 1 of the GXPC season 5. I am Replays. Most people know me as S Commander. I'll be your play-by-play guest for today. And with me is my good friend Wyatt Lotus Kairos, or most people know him as Davy Boy. He'll be my color caster today. How are you doing today,
Yep,
Davy?
I'm doing great. First day of casting on the proverbial desk today, so I think this is a really good game to kick off the season for both of us. For anybody joining in for their first viewing session, we got NFG, the old returner. They've been around forever. Then ViperWeb, newcomer to the league. So a lot of new faces on that roster. Then also on NFG, a lot of new faces, but then a few that we might recognize from past seasons. So I think there's no better way to kick off the season than to hop in with this game. So this is
Yeah.
a conference one, and so we're splitting it up a little bit differently. But I'm just excited to get it underway.
Yeah, so am I. I'm pretty excited. It's my first time I've casted in a while. It's also my first of the season. Like you said, ViperWeb's the new team. I know a little bit about that team. I've played against them before, and NFG showing back up with a lot of new faces this season. I had a chance to play against them a couple days ago in the Phoenix League tournament. So I kind of know a little bit about them and how they play the game. So I'm pretty excited to cast this series and get underway into pro draft here hopefully soon. I know both teams have been talking to each other a lot, and we
Yep.
are actually into the first ban phase for ViperWeb.
And we are
Wait,
kicking it off, and so using pro draft obviously, and looking down the pick bands of what they might try to target out. I know that there's some high priority mid laners right now that are definitely seeing a lot of attention. The Galio Lissandra seems kind of like we were talking about, just a pick ban. And just a reminder, ViperWeb is using an emergency sub, and so they will not have bans in this first game.
so for all the games, ViperWeb will not have bans. Also, for anyone that didn't know, today 9.1 dropped today, so we are playing on a new patch. Both these teams we'll see them on the new patch. They'll be the first teams to experience it here. Um, a lot of buffs and mostly buffs I think around the patch, right? Some pretty big ones like Ornn, Sedge was pretty big as well. Some A carries got some buffs, but I think the Ornn one is the one that really was the big one in the patch for everyone.
Yeah, Ornn has a lot of implications just from how much his passive was changed with items for teammates and his own items. Just there were so many changes packed into that I think it's pretty solid overall. I kind of expect it to be somewhat broken early on, and that they're going to have to readjust or panic nerf, kind of balance that out in the future. But originally, just based on the numbers, it's looking pretty strong. And Sejuani also we might see played kind of coming back into viability, possibly. Definitely worth trying. And here NFG's pinching out Heltgard's pool pretty substantially. Camille and Lee Sin, the top two champs from solo queue, which is just about all we have to go off of. And we'll see if
Uh,
they do all three jungle bans, maybe.
yeah, so they're kicking off with two pretty early game aggressive junglers. I don't think they're terrible bans. They're pretty good junglers right now. Trying to take away some early momentum maybe away from the side of ViperWeb, and like we said about the Galio Liz kind of being a 100% pick ban. We do see the Galio ban, so we're kind of keeping up that trend.
And I think that this will absolutely pressure ViperWeb into picking their jungler in the first rotation. So in one of these first three picks, maybe even first picking it, to make sure that they're able to get a jungler that they feel comfortable on. Instead, they go for Cass. Cass in this, because that is actually a somewhat contested pick, as both mid laners have Cassio in their champ pool. So we'll see if NFG now ViperWeb was forced to blind pick their mid laner. They're feeling strongly about that, and we'll see how NFG answers.
Yeah, so when I last experienced playing against the ViperWeb team, their mid laner is a very strong player. He might be the player the team looks for a lot of times, and I do like the Cassiopeia pick. Is very strong, high damage, a lot of lane pressure, and is certainly one of those like late game carries if it has to get that far. So that pick does get pretty scary. It is actually super strong right now. The side of NFG on their first rotation is going to decide to pick up the Morgana. And then going in the second pick with a couple of seconds left, they do pick up the very strong bully bot lane, Caitlyn Morg. In my opinion, Caitlyn is probably the strongest crit user at the moment. So that's a pretty good pick. And they are going to, ViperWeb is going to go ahead and pick their bot lane with the Lucian Braum. That's supposed to be another strong bully lane, but I don't think it's as strong as the Caitlyn Morg, especially since Morgana is that Braum counter.
Oh, and I think that we will see the Sejuani lock in here. 8 seconds left, but I'm kind of anticipating that since Clancy does play Sejuani, and also just picking up a jungler would put a lot of pressure on ViperWeb. I anticipate they might use the 2 bans to pinch the jungle even further, maybe taking Kha'Zix, Kayn, Nidalee, the other 3 champions that Heltgard has seemed to trend towards, at least in solo queue. That's all we have to go off of, as it is the first week. Or they might throw some of those up into the top lane with a Malphite, Renekton, Riven. We're kind of the main picks here for ViperWeb's top lane. So so far in the pro draft, they're doing a pretty good job. Also with they're going to get the response for the mid lane that they get the counter pick, no matter how it goes. And they do ban the Malphite.
Yeah. So that misban that they forgot is supposed to be Malphite. So they are banning that out. I kind of made a little prediction before the stream went live that because of the changes, I felt like Ornn and Sejuani were probably going to start being 100% pick ban as well. And so far we have one half of that's true.
Yeah, we have half of that.
I just think the buffs are too strong.
The buffs are really strong. But I'm not sure if either of the top laners have Ornn in their champ pool. Neither Dongarino or Regen Pride have really shown the Ornn very much recently. It could be something they've been working on in customs or in scrims. And I know that the Scion has been played by Regen Pride in solo queue quite a bit. So a smart ban. They're putting a lot of pressure onto the jungle and top matchup, and we'll see if they're able to get favorable matches out of that on the top half and really control that side of the map.
Yeah, and like you said, you haven't seen it a lot on their matches. It's not Ornn, like tank playstyle isn't really something that El Dongarino goes to. He's not really a tank player. He's kind of like a carry, a split pusher. He likes his split push champions. He likes playing Teemo. Everyone knows that. His infamous Teemo top lane. But as we go into their 4th pick at NFG, it looks like they will leave the blind pick top lane and go for some wave control and a good damage dealing mage in the mid lane and Malzahar, as ViperWeb is looking to close out their draft with their final 2 picks here.
I really like the Malzahar pickup. It's shown to be statistically a good counter against Cassio, and also just there's a lot of lockdown between the Sejuani, Malzahar. They can definitely pick whoever they want to kill on the opposing team and just kill them in the late game. So that Cassio, Lucian are going to have to be very aware of their positioning in team fights, and if they get caught out, there will be no hope for them to win the team fight without both of those damage dealers in the late game. So pretty good draft so far from NFG.
Yeah, and saying that, so far the Sejuani, who brings a ton of CC herself into her ganks and stuff, now she has a bot lane and a mid lane that also has really good setup and engage and setup with her ganks to help her out with that. And it looks like ViperWeb's going to go ahead and round their pick out with the Urgot and the Aatrox here. So one of those will you would think it's probably the Aatrox in the jungle and the Urgot in the top lane.
Yeah, most likely this will be the Aatrox in the jungle. Heltgard has played played that a few times. I would even solo queue in the jungle, so he's going to go for that. Although there was a slight nerf to his Q damage to jungle monsters a few patches ago to kind of cut down on the Aatrox self funnel mid, where he was taking the Raptors before going to lane, getting level 2 and coming in basically full health. So that has been nerfed a little bit, which could hurt his early clear. But I think that it is an interesting pick into the Sejuani that you can be pretty aggressive in the early game if you catch her out. Lots of crowd control and dueling potential from the Aatrox. And so I think that there are worse picks, but he was definitely forced deep into his champ pool on that one.
Yeah, and the Jace is going to be the final pick for El Dongarino there in the top lane. Like I said, he likes those carries, he likes the split pushers tops, and Jace is definitely one of the champions that can do that. So that is a champion for him, and it's another lane that the Sejuani can look to gank, because getting Jace ahead's always really good for your team, and it enables that split push.
And we are going to get into the final champ select pretty quickly here, but looking at kind of the whole matchup, which side of this do you think that you're going to give the edge to going into game 1 of the series?
So looking at both comps, I think both comps are actually really good, and I think but I think if I had to give it to one, I would say I'd give it to ViperWeb, just because not the teams or how skillful teams are. It's just over the last couple of days, the matches we've seen have been very bloody, very skirmishy, a lot of kills in all the games so far that we've had in the last few days. And I just think for the side of ViperWeb, they have a team that's better at these skirmishes and team fights and stuff. So I think I'd probably give the edge to them going into this game 1, though. Even though I do think they have, a losing bot lane. The mid lane goes E, and depending on who's going top, which, I mean, like, you never know, people do crazy stuff, but it's most likely Urgot. I'm not the most experienced top laner, so I don't know really how Jace Urgot goes. I do know Jace got like a buffer to his QE, I believe it was. Like the animation for his QE, like you can buffer it now. I think something along those lines.
Yeah, I
But
think
yeah,
that.
so I'm
So
giving
you're
it.
overall giving the edge to ViperWeb,
Yes.
and I kind of based on how things are going, I'm gonna go with the other side of giving the edge to NFG for the game 1. Just looking at the champs and how they've come out on the other side of champ select with the pick potential that they have, Sejuani, Malzahar, Morgana. They have a lot of tools to catch people out of position, and ViperWeb doesn't really have very many team fight tools necessarily to get the fight started off. They have a lot of damage and they have a lot of team fight prowess, but to kick those fights off, they're going to have to look for a really good kind of flank or TP or mispositioning from NFG, that if NFG doesn't give them that, they should be in the driver's seat and they should be able to take fights on their own terms with the Sejuani and the Malzahar long distance engage. We just came out of Champ Select. We're
Oh.
having some difficulties. Have to stand by and see what that's all about.
Oh yes. So the GXPC special coming in here. It's not truly a GXPC series if we don't have at least like 3 mess ups before the game starts. We are going to try to figure out what happened. I guess he locked in the wrong champion on accident, so we're gonna have to wait for him to come back into this game. So we can go ahead and talk a little bit more about the team comps and how we think this game is going to play out. I think early pressure is going to go towards the side of NFG. Just looking at the lanes and stuff, especially in the bot lane.
Yeah, bot lane, there's actually a lot of kill potential from either side, whether that's Braum landing his passive, Winter's Bite, and going all in on the Kate Morg, or Morgana hitting a binding, putting it into a Caitlyn trap. That can really go either way. So that's a high variance lane. Not safe for either side, so you can't be sleeping on that. And you kind of anticipate the junglers really playing towards that side. And then in the mid lane, really, Cassio and Malzahar are both kind of wanting to get towards six. Malzahar more than Cassio. She can do a little bit more early on, but I expect that to be slightly more of a farming lane unless there are some mispositionings by either of the mid laners. And then in the top lane, I think Jace can pick the fights on his own terms, kind of keeping the Urgot a little bit further back with the range advantage, as Urgot's basically melee with his really short attack range. And then I think a lot of it will be up to the junglers to tilt the balance towards one way or another. They have three lanes that could really get out of hand quickly if something goes wrong for either side. So I expect it to be pretty lopsided once things get rolling.
Yeah, and I think it's going to come down to the junglers early. Both junglers I think have really good lanes to go to. Ganking the Braum Lucian lane, where they can go forward, get stuns and slows and stuff, and output a lot of damage down there. It's a really good lane to go to. The Cassio can slow, keep the Malzahar in place. I think it's really good go to. And Urgot has some setup with his slow and flip. But I think what the Aatrox will probably look more to do is invading the Sejuani and bullying her out. Because we all know how great of a duelist Aatrox is, especially in the 1v1s. So I think that's something he's going to try to do, where Sejuani is going to look more to gank her lanes and stuff, especially when she hits level 6, especially going mid at level 6 with the Malzahar.
Yeah, that'll be definitely very impactful level sixes across the board, honestly. That nobody really has an insignificant level six, especially that Jace. When he gets his level six, that's when you don't mess around anymore. Um, but the one interesting piece of the Sejuani pick is that she really only has one lane that she can go to get the passive stacks off and to get that guaranteed stun very quickly in the gank, and that's in the top lane with the Jace. And even then, he might want to be in his kind of poke stance against the Urgot, not wanting to get too close. Then he might switch in for the gank. So less lanes than what is kind of optimal with double ranged bot lane and also the ranged mid laner. So we'll see um, how Clancy is able to work around that. And then the other side basically has pretty strong lanes across the board. I don't think that you would call any of those lanes a losing lane. So we'll see if Aatrox is able to use the pressure that he has in all three lanes to successfully invade the Sejuani, to force her off farm in a significant way before she gets to those mid to late game team fights where it doesn't matter how far behind in gold or items she is. So really looking for the Aatrox to apply a lot of pressure, playing smart around the pushing lanes that he should have in the early game.
Yeah, I agree. I also agree with your statement from earlier that whoever is going to be the one that gets the Timbo such rolling first is probably the one that's going to take away with this game, just because how these teams are. In a scenario where this game goes late, 40 minutes, 45 minutes, 50, start hitting those timers, who do you think will have the edge there?
I think as we move later and later, that as the items come through, um, I hate to say that it's going to be a skill matchup, but I would kind of give the edge to ViperWeb with the Cassio scaling and the Aatrox and the Urgot both really strong in the late game. Really, the only weak point that they have is the Lucian in the late game. Um, but as Sejuani and Malzahar kind of scale into the late game, you're expecting to get a QSS from Lucian. The high priority targets are going to be harder to get onto with such a huge front line between Braum, Urgot, Aatrox, just three meatballs standing in front of the DPS. That I expect ViperWeb to have somewhat of an edge going into the late game because kind of as you get into the super late, Sejuani and Malzahar ults just won't insta kill if you're positioned well. So I think that I would go with ViperWeb if it goes super late, but I do expect NFG to have an easier time executing in the early to mid game, and so I think that they can snowball it out of control before we get to that point.
All right. I think if it had to go that late, I'd have to agree with you. Their team is just, Casio. If Casio hits 6 items, that spells danger a lot of the times. Urgot's going to be a big meat shield, and Malzahar does go through tanks fairly well, but I think Urgot's just going to provide too much, especially with the ulti. Does so much in team fights. Aatrox getting in there, getting in the backline, causing distraction. Obviously, you have Braum for like engages and peels. And even though Lucian will not scale like Caitlyn does, Lucian still can get around fights pretty well. Once he starts getting those you know his items in his 30-40% CDR. So
Yeah,
I would
I
also give it to ViperWeb.
yeah, I think that we are in for a good one, and we're going to head to a commercial break, and we will be back for Game 1 of NFG versus ViperWeb Esports.
My name is Tom. I operate Games XP in Decorah, Iowa. Games XP is a geek paradise. We carry everything from Pong and Atari all the way to Xbox One and PS4, and all the games that would go with those consoles as well. We also carry a ton of movies. We have handheld games. We have Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon. We have D&D and Pathfinder. We carry Warhammer 40K. We have a vintage Star Wars selection. This place is great. My wife and I have had 6 kids, and they are so much fun to work with here at the store. They run the store as much as I do.
And we now repair cell phones, game consoles, computers, and small electronics.
Our store is instant fun. Not only is there cool music and cool stuff to look at, but we have a game room that is so much fun. It's free to play, and you just plug in your game system and enjoy life. The Game XP motto is bringing joy to people's lives through our products, people, and a place to play. So you have got to come to Decorah, Iowa, and check out Games XP and experience this geek gaming paradise.
Alright guys, welcome back from our commercial break as we get into this game number 1. On the blue side we do have Team ViperWeb, and on the red side we have NFG, and early on we already have a lot of pings of that bot side from the side of NFG.
With a level 1 threat from the Morgana, Lucian, Braum, I don't think
Oh
much is
yeah,
gonna
and they
happen.
are spotted out. A couple of Oz binding does not land, but it does back away here.
They get that deep ward down, and I think that it should be interesting to watch the early game pathing. Sejuani might even start the red buff here coming up. It looks like it with the buff on her damage from the E hitting. It should actually be relatively healthy for her clear. She never really had issues clearing in the first place, but this might even make it better than it was before. But they do have vision on it, and they get a good ward in the bot side to see if Aatrox decides to go for that bottom scuttle, but jungler's starting on opposite sides of the map, so we aren't set for very much action yet, but we'll see if they meet early on.
Yeah, a little trading in mid lane there as Twilight Mole's already losing a bit of his HP there. As I look through the runes that everyone is taking, the only one that I find interesting, and as you are a jungle main, maybe you can tell me a little more about it, is the Aftershock on the Aatrox.
I think the Aatrox does have a lot of different ways to proc it, and in lane he's usually, I think that he's taking the Electrocute, which isn't exactly optimal for most junglers. They usually don't take the Aftershock. A lot of them were going for the Dark Harvest instead.
Action in the bot lane as we got 3 summoners flown from the side of NFG, as Morgana's gonna go low as the level 2 did come out from the Lucian Braum first. Lucian though does take a lot of punishment back from the Caitlyn as well there, so actually 3 summoners down for both sides now as Braum blew both his flash and ignite as well.
That is my fault talking over you. I was completely zoomed in 100% on the Sejuani clearing land. I was enamored with that, and so that kind of that kept me from catching what was going on in the bot lane. So my bad. That'll never happen again. Just such a beautiful champ, well designed.
Well designed.
She's now going in for the invade on the top side. It looks like both junglers did the same thing, where she cleared the full top side on her red side, and then Aatrox did the same thing on his bot side. So they did a 3 camp to get that level 3 plus a Scuttle Crab.
Yeah, but the Aatrox is backing after doing his 30 camps, so Sejuani looks like she's going to be ahead of the marker here, clearing the top side of the Aatrox, so he's going to come back with less camps, as she is onto his blue after taking the wolves. So it's a very good start here from Clancy, being aware of his jungle pathing, or as I should say, pretty good jungle pathing, as he does smite away the blue buff.
Yeah, and that's great ward coverage also. They're going to know where this Aatrox is for the next about minute and a half, hopefully. And that's going to make it really difficult for Aatrox to get the early pressure onto the Sejuani. He has no camps on the bot side, so he's kind of just wasting his time for a little while here. So the Sejuani getting a really good lead, kind of preventing her lanes from getting pressured by the Aatrox and avoiding pressure herself. So they might meet again on this blue side. And yeah, bot lane's kind of going back and forth, not too much crazy happening.
Yeah, Aatrox immediately making a beeline towards Sejuani's bot side, trying to get something back here as he is at the blue. Pings do come down here, as it is going to be a fight as Aatrox was able to secure the blue. A little Aftershock proc's going to do some damage. It looks like junglers are just going to walk away from each other in the meantime.
Yeah, Aatrox is forced off just because his bot lane did not have priority at the time, so Caitlyn and Morgana were much quicker to get there, with mid lane kind of frozen closer to the Cassio. And I think that this early game is just going so well for NFG, that they're keeping vision on this Aatrox, keeping tabs, and nothing's going tragically wrong in the lanes.
Yeah, and I think it's a great start for the Sejuani as well. You know, as Aatrox, kind of expect him to go in there, bully, try to fight Sejuani early, and Sejuani is doing a good job on his movement and pathing, kind of having to avoid the Aatrox altogether.
And nothing has really happened much in the bot lane. I think that Lucian Flash is going to be back up now, so he's survived that time window.
Yeah, Oh, we got a little fight in the bot river here. Morgana is here. The roam. Cassio is going to be the first to roam in the mid lane. The binding does land. Petrifying Gaze does come out. Sejuani is going to go down for the first blood as the poison ticks down for the Cassio. So
Yeah,
that's
I'm not exactly sure leading up to that. Sejuani thought that she was going to be able to kill the Aatrox a little bit quicker. They even landed the bind, but Mal's was slower. And Mal's eating some damage from the Cassio, but they just weren't able to close out that kill. Cassio roams first, and Malzahar is too slow to follow, even though both mid laners were really close by. That's unfortunate for NFG.
Yeah, and to make matters worse, in this mid lane, Cassio did get the blue buff from the Sejuani as well. Cassio loves her blue buffs, you know, be able to span her abilities more. And because of the recent, sorry, not this patch, but last patch, her mana's cost did go up, so that feels really good. And it's
sure
also
right now, Twilight Mole is just thanking us. Sejuani saying, "Hey, thanks for the blue buff transfer to my laner."
yeah.
And he said jungle difference. I'm 100% sure. My solo queue games, that's what happened, so I'm sure that's what is going on in their comms right now, no doubt.
Yeah, and you know, we were talking about how well the Sejuani was doing. It kind of got a little greedy going for that scuttle crab and got punished for it. And you know, it kind of went over to maybe the worst person possible, that first blood, which was the Cassio. I mean, well, worst for NFG, best for ViperWeb.
They absolutely want the Cassio to be getting a lot of the kills and a lot of the golds, and it's kind of their win condition in the later game. If Lucian's not able to get more momentum and get more pressure on the bot lane, right now the Kate and Lucian are both even exactly in CS. They went back at the same time, and the lane is frozen almost exactly in the middle, so no advantages in the bot lane, which doesn't bode well for the Lucian, who is kind of more dependent on that early game snowball. So now they might start transitioning more resources into the Cassio and more attention to her.
Yeah, I would too. As we look in the bot side of the map, the Sejuani is going for invade. Is looking to take the Raptors to the Aatrox, and you know, they might meet up again here as another fight could break out as she does take the camp. They are fighting, got some pings, but I think Sejuani is just going to be able to walk away from that one. Another successful steal. You know, even after the kind of the goof up in the bot river, she is still a level ahead, does have her ultimate here. It might be looking for another fight as the mid laner's moving. She charges forward with nothing else.
She does have the timer on the blue buff as well. We'll see if she keeps up the pressure on that side. Not far ahead in items right now, but the gold difference is only about 200. So Aatrox is able to kill the high priority camps, and then he's helping to break that freeze in the mid lane so Cassio can get a good back. And we'll see if Sejuani looks to this bot side as she's kind of getting boxed in there, and if she wants to go for a lane gank or try to use that first ultimate, as Aatrox is on the top side of the map and they ping him up there. So I think they have a good idea of where Aatrox is at.
Yeah, so, you know, I'm kind of disappointed in this bot lane for NFG, though. They are down in CS, and I think this should be a bully lane, but that's a flash for Braum. Sejuani is here. Black Shield does go down. Braum is ticking down from the Ignite. He does get trapped up in that as a kill for 21 love, as that is NFG's first kill of the game.
And they can definitely look to go get some of the chip damage on this turret. Eldongarino in the top lane is backing up pretty far just to be safe, as they know that the Aatrox is probably on the bot half of the map. So they're instead rotating to the Cloud Drake, which will be pretty helpful for the Malzahar spam, just for the sustain and the across the board, honestly. Cassio's getting the blue buff passed over right now, so second blue. What a good jungler. Aatrox passing over the blue to kind of like what we mentioned, just giving the Cassio resources so that she can try to snowball, try to be just really big in these team fights, as the Lucian isn't getting much done and the Aatrox is pretty far behind.
Yeah, and getting that first Ocean Drake, you know, it's not the best Drake, but getting that Ocean Drake early does feel good, especially, you know, when your mid laner, you know, is one of the champions that constantly is trying to cast spells and stuff. You know, so that does feel good. Malzahar is going to get his first blue of the game. That does get passed over. But like I was saying before the fight broke down, bot is kind of disappointed in the Caitlyn Morg lane. You know, that, you know, it's really hard for the Lucian Braum to win that lane because you know, Morgana is the Braum counter, you know, Black Shield, be able to Black Shield the passive, as we do have a fight in the top lane, as I'm not allowed to speak. El Dongarino taking a lot of damage, and ooh, that Q just missed from this from Urgon. That may have been all in if he would have connected that.
It's been the first really aggressive play we've seen, or aggressive trade in the top lane, and they might look for the dive here.
Yeah, El Dongarino might get punished here, going for a ward. Some auto attacks, he does flash over. The chains do connect from the Aatrox, but El Dongarino's able to, you know, walk out of it. Sejuani does walk forward, and we might get 3v3 on the top side. Both mid laners are moving, and everyone seems like they're going to back off. As ooh, that's a lot of damage from the Cassio there. He is ticking down. Oh, that's a flash forward from Aatrox, as it's barely not enough damage, sub 10% HP. And that was a very close from being the second kill of the game for ViperWeb.
That was a huge amount of damage coming out with just the Blasting Wand Lost Chapter. So pretty surprising. And the Miasma taking off the spell shield so that she can pump out some damage onto the Malzahar. That was pretty significant in there. And then they force out the flash and the teleport for Malzahar immediately. Sejuani's looking mid.
Yeah, Sejuani is here. Cleanse and Flash are up, though. Both sides W lands. Aatrox is here. Suppression does come down. The Cleanse does come down, but it doesn't matter. But it's a trade kill for the Aatrox, as everyone's TPing here. It is now 3v2. Sejuani is in trouble. The Braum ulti does come down. Morgana is now here, and this may be a turnaround for NFG. Braum is rooted up, stunned up. The Soul Shackles come out on the 2. That is a stopwatch. Jace does jump in. Sejuani charges forward. The health bars are dropping low, and the Fear Beyond Death is finally going to get killed after an extended fight in the mid lane.
Yeah, that was kind of the fight that we've been adding up to. So a lot of the summoners were up for the side of ViperWeb. So they actually did a great job. They started with the Sejuani E to stun the Cassio, then she popped Cleanse actually, I think, before that, and then they chained it, and the Sejuani saved the ultimate until after the Cleanse animation had gone off, so they get the 100 to 0 CC just about. So very well chained to make sure that they guarantee that kill, but then the TP coming in from Urgot really turns things around. And the Morgana, I was surprised to not see her ult a little bit earlier when she had both the Braum and the Urgot in range, but she held on to it a little bit longer. Also didn't drop the Ignite either, which I think might have been able to secure one of the kills, but overall it's kind of an even trade. They get the kill on the Cassio and slow her down a little bit, so the CS gap closes in mid, but another fight
this
maybe.
might be another one. The spell shield does come down. That is a flash, Petrifying Gaze, and it will be enough damage, as Cure's going to get that one. So Malzahar goes down one again, his second death of the game.
And he doesn't have the TP up, so it's going to be a long walk back to lane, as this wave's going to crash in. Cassio not going to be able to get turret plating, as that just fell on. No teams really got a gold advantage off turret plating. I don't know if a single plate went off, it doesn't look like, before 14 minutes. So kind of a loss of gold that you would hope that the Lucian is able to get in that lane, but he's kind of been just nullified by the Morgana. Kate hasn't been able to get anything done. They didn't have any pressure in the lane, honestly, past that level 2 or 3 fight.
Yeah, and like, you know, we were talking about earlier, it's really hard to get, you know, pressure onto the Morg Kate lane. You do get outranged. It is a melee versus range support matchup. But we do have Aatrox sneaking into the bush here. Maybe he's trying to phase. Morgana does come forward, and oh my god! Morgana gets obliterated. It's a flash forward from the bomb. The passive sacks do come down. She is stunned up, and it's a double kill for Adapt.
And that was perfectly played. They just did a great job. Morgana not respecting or really not expecting Aatrox to be in that brush right there. So they did a great job setting up the lane gank, and then insta-killed the Morgana when she walked up a little bit too close, then got the Kate on the follow-up. So playing really aggressive on that, and it works out really well. Sejuani in the top lane trying to answer with this Rift Herald as the first tower goes down, and they get a lot of golds. Unfortunately, it's after the turret plating goes down, but this might be the mid-game turn-on for the Lucian.
Ooh, the binding just misses in the mid lane. And yeah, like, Lucian, we talked about having to be able to get an advantage. Caitlyn does outscale, and that's a, pretty good start for him coming into this mid game, as NFG will get the Rift Herald. Cloud Dragon is up. Lucian, with the Bork and Phage, is a very strong, probably the strongest marksman at one item, two items right now. Would be Lucian. He's on a pretty good pace there, as Urgot is going to ghost forward into the Jace and see if he continues this chasing. It will not, as a good knockback from Eldongarino.
And I like this rotation a lot from Team ViperWeb with the Lucian and the Braum going up into the top side. They ideally would have liked to have the threat of taking the Rift Herald while they were up there, but NFG kind of preemptively took that off the map. So while Caitlyn was pushing out bot lane and now rotating into mid, they're going to have a lot of pressure.
Here we go. The binding does land. Insta cleanse. Soul Shackles come down. Ignite does come out. There's a good petrifying gaze. The stun does come out. Their suppression will come down. And that's a kill for Twilight Mole. But it's a trade kill for Papa Luigi here. As a 1-for-1 in the mid lane. Herald is getting dropped. Jace will go down the... Ooh, doesn't give it to the Fear Beyond Death. Actually, Aatrox will pick that one up, but Herald is pushing down the mid lane, and NFG will win this push. Looking for a tier 2 here, as the tower is traded into the top side, and looks like this is going to be uncontested, as NFGs will take a second tower in the mid lane.
Overall, I would definitely give the advantage to NFG on that push. That taking that Herald, it was a great play by Clancy to take the Herald when there was that push bot to get that first turret, and here they also get the Drake. So very good rotations, honestly, from both teams. That I think NFG gets a little bit of the advantage just based on that initial brush play that they made in the bottom lane. Then they rotated well, they reacted to the fight in the top lane, and they just chained the CC in mid to take out the cast, and then they dropped the Herald immediately and get two turrets off that. So they rotated just a little bit faster than Team ViperWeb was able to keep up with.
Yeah, and it looks like ViperWeb's going to get their own siege in the mid lane. No one here from NFG to really defend. A little poke from Eldongarino on this chase. And it looks like they're just going to be able to back away cleanly. Some pings going into the top side there. This Malzahar is going to be able to push that wave in. As we, almost get into this 20-minute mark, we're going to see second items coming out soon. We've already have a second item out for Papa Luigi on this Casio, who has been pretty strong and will continue to get stronger. Urgot on his second item as well. So right now for the side of ViperWeb, it's looking pretty good. They do have a 2k gold lead going into the mid game here.
All things considered, I would say that
it's Morgana is going to get caught out again. The petrifying gaze and the burn just isn't going to be enough, as that was a very close.
That was huge damage with not a lot of time. I mean, that was a lot more than I expected on the poison bleed over time. So the Dot doing a lot of work, taking Morgana down really far, forcing her to back. But as I was kind of saying, NFG's only down 2,500.
Oh, that's a flash forward from the Malzahar. Suppression will go down, and the Sejuani, the Glacial Prison, will lock up that kill, as Sejuani is going to pick up her first of the game. 4 kills now for the side of NFG.
Yeah, that was just such a deadly combo. When you get too close in the range, Malzahar flashed, but they have that timer, but it's going to be up again soon enough, and that is not really much you can do about that. If Sejuani's waiting in a bush nearby, you just die, pretty much. If they can 100 to 0 as Malzahar starts getting more items, they're going to be 100 to 0ing for quite a while until full items come through and everyone's a little tankier.
Oh yeah, and this might be a catch on the Aatrox. Soul Shackles come out, a flash and a dash over the wall. Sejuani is on the chase. The Aatrox ulti will be popped. He is turning it, and TP comes out from the Jason. We might have a full team fight. Righteous Glory from Urgot is coming in. The call-in does go down. Sejuani in the sod. Watch. Fear Beyond Death has not gone down yet. Clancy will pick up the first kill onto Braum. Aatrox going super low. Flash forward from Caitlyn will pick up another kill. Suppression already back up. That's 2 kills for the Caitlyn. And in the end, it is a 3-for-0 inside of NFG as they pick up a clean team fight victory.
That was a huge fight. Eldongarino TP'd in almost immediately as they were trying to pick off that Aatrox. and then Clancy buys some time with a really well-played stopwatch, and then Malzahar already had the ultimate back up again. They might not have been expecting that, but basically casting it off cooldown, and they're able to take that fight.
Casio does have flash here, and oh my god, it's a big petrifying gaze, but Sejuani does get the buff. The cleanse does come out. Lucian gets blown up by El Dongarino, as that was a good attempt from the side of ViperWeb, but just not good enough, as NFG is going to be able to pick up another kill and some subs from the mid laner and Baron on everyone.
If you added up all of NFG's health bars at the end of that, I think that they would have had 1,500 health between all of them split. It was very close to Casio being able to pop off, get a lot of kills, and get Baron off some of those members. But they play it well. They kind of make the ballsy call to do the 20-minute Baron. They say that they have the damage, everybody is there, and they had enough health, and so really decisive shot calling to just go ahead and pick up that Baron really quickly after a big team fight win. And then there's another Cloud Drake coming up in 40 seconds. We'll see how they prioritize that, or if they just focus on getting some of these objectives down, getting more gold from the Baron power play, which I would expect them to do.
Yeah, and you know, couple minutes ago it was a 2k gold lead for the side of ViperWeb. Now it's a 2k gold lead for the side of NFG here, as it looks like they're ready to push the tempo of this game, going for another tier 2. And the boss side Aatrox will pop ulti, does step on a trap. Everyone's stepping on traps actually, and it looks like he's the one to go for his. The Braum ulti does come out. Braum is going super low. Culling does go down. Sejuani will go down to the Cassiopeia. Petrifying Gaze only catches one, as Lucian's trying to do all the damage. Malzahar, suppression in the back line, will take one down. Urgot, another trade kill here. This is a double kill for Jason. It is a 2 for 3 for the side of ViperWeb.
And that's really fortunate for ViperWeb that NFG was just positioned a little bit too aggressively, and they committed a little bit too much for the pick on the Aatrox, and they got chased down. So losing Baron buff on 3 members is a pretty big mistake. Just the positioning on the I'd really say just impatience by NFG of not waiting for more members, or not waiting for another wave to pressure, or for pressure to happen somewhere else on the map. So they forced that issue a little bit too much, and it hurts them there. So they lose a significant chunk of their Baron buff, and all they're going to get now is really the 1.4k gold advantage. So that went down quite a bit, and I'd say things are just about even at this point as they look at this next Drake.
Yeah, as this is third Drake of the game, and FG looks like they're going to secure this one, as well as no one's really in position for it. Yeah, no body's really moving towards it, so they will have their second Cloud Drake. You know, they haven't been the luckiest on the RNG of the Drakes, you know, but Cloud Drake, you know, isn't too terrible. That was kind of close there from the Braum.
And their luck will continue to be mediocre, as it's another Ocean Drake coming up.
Yeah, getting a little aggressive in the bot side here of ViperWeb's jungle.
Yeah, they're kind of poking around maybe where they shouldn't be poking around, with not a ton of vision established for NFG, and they just came off that fight where they lost Baron. What I'd really look for NFG to do here is to use their pick potential to set up vision aggressively in the opponent's side of the jungle, and to go for picks based on that. Kind of in the prior fight, they got engaged on off of a flank, which is really Team ViperWeb's only option. All they can do is get a fight off of a flank, or off of a teleport, or off of a mispositioning. And so all NFG has to do is not be out of position, and then they get to dictate which fights are taken and which fights are not taken. So as long as they're setting up vision and playing around that with their pick potential, this game should be extremely winnable. But if they keep making mistakes where they're out of position, and they allow for this kind of rundown team comp from Team ViperWeb to come after them, then they're just going to have a really hard time closing this game out.
Yeah, and we were talking about how the side of ViperWeb's getting QSS's, you know, playing against Sedge, Malzahar, Morgana, neither the Casio or the Lucian have picked one up. Actually, the only person on their team that has one is Urgot. So, kind of disappointed not to see that have come out yet. I know Casio has cleanse, but I hope everyone knows, or you're about to find out, I guess, that you can't cleanse Malzahar ulti because it's a suppression. Even though it is CC, you cannot cleanse Malzahar ulti. You have to buy QSS.
And here is possibly a rundown on the Malzahar.
Yeah, here's a Righteous Glory spell. Shield is popping. That is a good flash away. As it looks like they might want to collapse even more. Binding just lands. A lot of pings going in the top side of NFG's jungle here. They are 4 strong walking through. Maybe just trying to clear some vision out as the next Baron is in 25 seconds. Morgana in a bad place though is going to have to blow her flash.
Yeah, Team ViperWeb's getting some good summoners out. I would say key summoners, but they do have a lot of engage tools. Kind of bush camping here.
Yeah, and it looks like we're going to get a major fight here as that Baron is coming up in a few seconds. Some, vision battles going on right now.
And neither team really has an obligation to their side lanes. I think the Team ViperWeb is going to have to answer bot lane here in about a minute. But for the time being, they can stick around the Baron and contest that. But they don't have a TP to join the fight. So if they send Urgot down there, the Baron's being started up.
Yeah, all pings on the Baron, and NFG wants to commit for this now. Maybe, create a fight here as Aatrox ulti is popping. No hard commitment. The Glacial Prison does miss, though. That's a huge ulti down for the meantime. ViperWeb does have the inside track on mid lane here, but their side lanes aren't in the greatest of positions.
Yeah, this is actually a chance for NFG to just be a lot more patient. This bot wave is going to hit that turn, and it's going to take it for free. So I'd like to see them have a little bit more restraint, not using the Sejuani ult there. That's a major tool that's down.
And it looks like they just want to try it again. The Sejuani ulti is down. It's a pretty big teamfight tool right now. Baron is dropping down. It's a flash. Huge ulti from Braum, and the Petrifying Gaze demolishes the side of NFG. As it looks like they are going to go down. Caitlyn's slow fear beyond death is going to clean that one up. It's a clean 4-for-0 for the side of ViperWeb, turning this game back around in their favor.
That is just terrible patience from NFG. They commit way too early for the fight. They miss their, they miss a lot of their skill shots, and honestly, they have a lot of engage tools that are down. They shouldn't be looking for a fight in the first place with Morgana flash down, with Malzahar flash down, and with a bot lane that's about to crash. They could have waited another 40 seconds, and that wave is hitting the turret right now. A little bit more patience would have gone a long way in waiting for those cooldowns to come back up, and also to put pressure on Team ViperWeb's base without even having to put any effort in. So right now, it looks like they're heading to the Ocean Drake, but it was just a huge setup for Team ViperWeb to get a giant team fight, with the Casio finally getting to pop off there. Some big bounties going up on the scoreboard here, that there's about 1,600 in bounty gold to be taken. So some big prices on the heads on that side, but a pretty big misplay from NFG.
Oh, the bind does land. That is the QSS from Lucian blown. We have another 5 Sejuani. This morning, Soul Shackles do come out. The Glacial Prison does hit Urgot on the back. He is being suppressed up. Morgana will go down to adapt. Urgot so tanky with that Gargoyle Stone Plate. And it's a trade kill. Papa Luigi gets one himself, and ViperWeb's just cleaning up this fight. Caitlyn will be next to flash forward from Lucian. It's a double kill for the Cassiopeia, and another kill for the Aatrox. Says this is a clean ace, and all Barons are up. Sorry, not a clean ace. It is a 5-for-1 here. Pink Swords' bot side, as they do have a wave and they do have Bear.
And that's another huge win. Just a snowball original Baron fight, and they're able to get a lot of good usage out of this. And I think that we might be hitting that point we talked about in the pregame, where the front line is just getting a little bit too big for Team ViperWeb. They're getting a really solid front line that NFG just isn't going to be able to burn through. They just have the Caitlyn, Malzahar, Sejuani, but they can't one-shot anybody who's right in front of them. So Morgana got caught in an awkward spot there without a flash to get across the wall, or to get over the wall back to join her teammates. And that was just really a bad time to take another loss, especially with the Baron being up. I would have liked to see NFG concede that Drake, give up the vision, and just wait for that Baron buff to time out more, and possibly scale up a little bit, get some more items on the Kate. She will be doing more than the Lucian eventually, but right now it's just not looking good for NFG in these team
Yeah,
fights.
you're right, and I think ViperWeb was listening on to me when I was talking about QSSs, because a minute ago they only have one. Now 4 members have those QSSs, and they are ready. So it's going to be harder for this side of NFG to be able to lock them down with the Malzahar ulti, the bindings, the Glacial Prison. You know, they're going to start, not be able to find those engages they were previously and having success with.
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty tough to burn through that front line, and we're getting to the point where, honestly, if it takes a little bit of a longer engage for Team ViperWeb to get in there, they can absorb the damage and get the fight started off. And even if the fight is started by NFG, they're tanky enough that they can absorb that first damage, and then they can continue the fight and just keep burning down the back line and the front line. Honestly, they can take any target that they want at this time.
Yeah, we might have another engage here. Aatrox taking a pretty big sizable amount of damage there. Ooh, almost goes down. The Ace and Hole comes out, and that's a flash forward suppression. So Jawani's going to get a shutdown onto the Casio, and that's a good pick from the side of NFG.
The only issue there was that they committed quite a bit to make sure that they got the cast, but it's a good pick.
Oh yeah, and they might still be looking. The binding does land on the Braum. The calling does come out, and it does quite a bit of damage, but Braum will go down. It's another kill for this Caitlyn. That's 2 consecutive picks for NFG there.
Good guy Casio is just trying a little bit too hard to save the Aatrox that had ultimate available.
Oh, and here we go. We might have a 3v5. The chains do pull back. Sejuani, the Soul Shackles will come down. Urgot's going to be able to flip out of that one. As NFG will continue the siege mid. The Castillo is going to be up here in a couple seconds.
Yeah, I have to say that must have been a miscommunication that the Aatrox had ultimate available, but the Casio ate the Kate ult to prevent him from going down when that ended up costing her life at the end of it, when the Caitlyn ult, and then it kind of emboldened the Sejuani and the Malzahar to jump on top of her, and 100-0 pretty much, almost no chance for the Casio in that situation. So they're just snowballing, getting pretty far ahead, and they have the gold on the right people, and just going to get worse and worse, I think, for NFG as this keeps on going.
Oh yeah, I mean, like Casio, when you talk about gold and the right people, this Casio is huge 3 items to QSS. It looks like he's going towards what I think is a Spellbinder right now. With the items he does have in his inventory. IE is out for the Caitlyn though, but it's also out for Lucian. Which I find particularly weird, as he built the IE and then just built a crit glove. So yes, the IE is effective now. Usually you see the rapid fire cannon come out most of the time first and then the IE, but I'm not one to judge.
Hey, you told them to build the QSS, they did, and then they
yeah,
won a
they
fight.
did.
So I think that they should be listening to you. You should just be a full-time coach. I'm thinking
I just
this is
give
an
great
advertisement.
Advertisement.
And so the Baron is up here. This might be the flank that they're looking for.
Wait, here's the fight as they want to go forward. That's a good trap to stop the Braum. The binding does go down, and this is a good disengage for an NFG.
A really solid trap line, good Morgana Q to disengage that fight. That's what they need to do against this team that's going to be basically just sprinting at you to try and start a fight off.
Yeah,
and
now the
they're
NFG,
zoning them out.
Yeah, they have the inside track on mid here, but the wave is a little bit behind. Not going to be able to put any real pressure on this turn. I'm at tower. Their inhibitor is respawning now. So we'll have Malzahar probably go back and clear those waves that are coming in.
And pretty soon here in 20 seconds, we're going to have the Elder Drake up as well. Obviously more beneficial for NFG, but we do have those dueling objectives that they can trade off based on their priority. So it might be better for as it looks like they're moving over there right now for Team ViperWeb to clear the Elder Drake to make sure that that huge buff doesn't go over to NFG.
Yeah, and this is, you know, when these dual objectives come up like this is where you see, you know, who has the better micro game, you know, between these two teams, you know, who can shot call better between teams, and, you know, what fight to take and what fight to not take, because, you know, at this point in the game, how late it is, one, you know, a fight here at one of these objectives going over could probably just end the game.
I like the call here for NFG to prioritize the Elder a little bit more. They have vision on the Baron, so they can go over there and they can know the exact health and exact time when that gets started. But now they gave up the pressure to clear mid lane, so they're going to lose all the vision control that they have on this objective, and it gets started up immediately.
Yeah, Baron gets started up, but NFG no forward is able to get slow. The Soul Shackles do come out onto the Binding does go down, calling down. That was a good Glacial Prison, and the Cassiopeia is shredding this Sejuani. She's the one to watch in this fight, as that's a shutdown for the Caitlyn as she goes forward, and oh my god, this is disaster.
Trap's still in there. They might be going for the end here.
Yeah, and it's Cassio versus, you know, 4 right now, 5 members. QSS does come out, Cleanse will come down. Those are some low health bars, but she is by herself, and NFG is going to sit here and take game 1.
It all one last team fight approaching the Baron very well, and so they did a great job of not mispositioning while they were approaching. So they had the right targets in the right places. They stayed close together to prevent that ridiculous engage of Urgot and Aatrox sprinting at you. So they survived that initial burst and then turned it back around with their sustained damage. So they did a really good job in that last fight to seal the deal, and then ran down mid. They made the final call and said, we're not letting this go any further, which I think was pretty smart to not play around those objectives, but to take the team fight win and then to take the end opportunity when they saw it.
Yeah, and, you know, like I said, like, you know, about 30 seconds before that last fight was, you know, we were going to see who had better, you know, who had the better in-game decisions, and it seemed like NFG just knew what was happening. You know, they knew, you know, ViperWeb's going for that Baron. They knew they were going to turn, and they were fully prepared to take that fight going into it. And, you know, it showed as they, you know, made a clean sweep of that fight, the 4-for-0, and just ran it down mid and able to pick up the game 1.
Yeah, that was a great fight. So we will be right back with game 2 as NFG Esports leads ViperWeb 1-0 in the best of 3 series. Be right back.
Alright, everybody, welcome back to the game 2 of NFG versus ViperWeb. Game 1, NFG was able to pick up that victory. They are up 1-0 in this best of 3 here. We have all the people in the lobby. We just gotta wait for NFG to get in order, and we'll be able to start up this pick ban again for game number 2.
I think that they're saying there are, so it should be any second here, but we'll look to see what adjustments are made from both teams, honestly. ViperWeb looked really strong. Kind of there were throws back and forth that NFG had a really good early game. Then ViperWeb started to come online in the mid game and looked pretty threatening to close out the game. But then one good team fight from NFG really closed out the game actually earlier than I kind of expected, that they were able to get a lot with the longer death timers. So we'll see how they reallocate their win conditions, if they pick better scaling or if they pick more early, or if kind of both teams felt like they drafted well, but they just need to have a little bit better execution. So I think of either of the two teams kind of kept their draft and played a similar game, that it would be NFG, because I believe if they were able to keep playing the way that they did in the early game, they would have closed that game out if they didn't have this small misplays and kind of gave ViperWeb what they needed to get back into the game. I think that they would have closed it out there.
Yeah, and I think going into this game number 2 there, when you're talking about the drafts and stuff, I think, the thing that ViperWeb was missing in their team was engage. So, and it seemed like in a lot of the fights, they were the ones trying to start the fights without really having the tools to do so. And then NFG was able to, a lot of times turn these fights around, and a lot of times it seems like they were expecting the fight to come too. So, I mean, NFG in those later game fights looked pretty good going into those fights and cleaning a lot of them up very cleanly.
And when I look at the teams as we're getting into pick ban here, it's going to be tough for ViperWeb to figure out a player or a summoner, what lane they want to have their engage in. NFG taking the Casio off the board immediately looks so. I think that since they're blue side, they aren't really willing to pick it, but they respect the pick on that side, and they're going to get the 3 bans. And then ViperWeb, of course, doesn't have any bans for this game or for the whole match, as they're using an emergency sub. So we'll see how NFG decides to play it. Last time they, I believe, banned a mid laner, and then they took away the Lee Sin and Camille from Hellguard as well. And I think that'd be smart to do it again.
Yeah, and I like the Casio ban coming out here. It was, the shining light on the side of ViperWeb in game 1. It did look good. It did put up the most damage in the game last game. And they were willing to first pick it while they were on blue side, so it must be something they're very comfortable with. So I think that's a good takeaway. Also, again, banning the Galio for a second game in a row now.
And it's probably a good ban from NFG, taking away Cass Galio. Galio just really strong at the moment, and those two are kind of Papa Luigi's top picks at the moment from solo queue. Then the next few picks are kind of lower in priority between Kassadin, Yasuo, Irelia, LeBlanc, so forcing him onto some of those lower priority picks that he might not be as comfortable on, less games in solo queue. But the Lee Sin is left up for ViperWeb. Not likely to be picked away by NFG, as I don't think it's in Clancy's pool. So Lee Sin is up. We'll see if they decide to go for that one early on in the draft here. And I think NFG will likely be, it'll be interesting to see what they prioritize in the first round. It could potentially be the ADC pick, I think would be likely here.
Actually, I would probably like to see NFG, pick up the Sejuani again, like they did in game 1. It, Clancy did have a good early start to that. A couple hiccups here and there, but did look pretty good on it. Used the glacial prism. A lot of times looked really good, but instead the NFG is going to look for the 80 carry and going with a Kaisa pick.
I had a 20% chance, but I felt it was going to be the AD. And so it'll probably be the Braum Lucian. Yep, insta-locked for ViperWeb. They felt like that wasn't the problem in the early game. So um, it'll be interesting to see what they lock in here. I wouldn't be super surprised to see the Sejuani. However, since ViperWeb doesn't have any bans and their jungler doesn't play Sejuani, I think that it's pretty safe for them to let it drop in priority and it would still be available to them because there isn't much crossover in the champion pools between these two junglers. So I think Sejuani could make it late without any bans for ViperWeb.
Yeah, and the Alistar is going to get picked up, and it looks like NFG is thinking about that Sejuani again already. If they lock that in, NFG is going to have plenty of frontline and plenty engaged tools on their side.
They go for the
ViperWeb
Scion instead.
Insta lock the Scion again. ViperWeb wasting no time with their picks here.
Yeah, they seem very decisive in this pick ban. So Scion kind of varying a little bit from what they had in the last game. They had the Urgot, so slightly different. Both strong, pretty strong in lane. And we'll see if the Lee Sin and another jungler get taken off the board away from ViperWeb. I think that would be a good use of the bans here. The both mid laners not showing. I think that there's opportunity. ViperWeb will have the counter pick at the end of the day. So it's really up to NFG on who they want to pinch. I think that they could give the jungler a really hard time as this champ pool isn't or doesn't seem to be extremely deep from what I've seen. At least in solo queue, again, we don't know what they've been practicing in scrims, but they take the Lee Sin there and we'll see what they do with the last one.
Yeah, and I mean, ViperWeb decided to pick up the Scion third here. It did get banned in the second rotation of game 1 by the side of NFG. So it's obviously something that ViperWeb does want to prioritize very highly on their list of champions. And it does, cover the weakness they had last game, was now they have someone to engage with instead of just trying to see how fast we can run at the enemy team. Now they have someone that can actually start fights for them.
Yeah, I do like the change in the Scion, the long range engage, so to give them more options of how to start that team fight off. Before that was really lacking, that we kind of talked about in the break, that you just run at them, but Scion does a really good job of running at people in a way that could actually engage a fight. So I'm a fan of that pickup. And it's an interesting Kassadin ban here. It's in the champ pools of both mid laners.
It's Nunu and Willow. As ViperWeb's going to pick that up for their jungler, there's more front line for the side of ViperWeb. That's more engaged ways to start a fight. They're in the Nunu and Willem.
And I would be pretty scared if I was ViperWeb, honestly. They have the 3 front lines and then the Lucian, but they still need a significant DPS source as Poppy gets locked in for the top lane. It's going to be Eldong Areno in all likelihood. So really beefy front line from All-Star Sejuani Poppy. But they have the Hypercarry and Kaisa versus the Lucian, who will do less damage in the extremely late game. So ViperWeb going to need another big source of sustain AP damage, and NFG is about to lock in their last pick blind for the mid lane.
Yeah, I think both teams here in their mid lane need some high, and we talk about high consistent DPS, and you get a lot of that out of Corki in the mid lane. In patch 8.24, Corki did get his R buffed again, and it's almost to the point where he was like super broken. It's like 10 damage less right now than when it was like a while ago when he was like super busted as a mid laner. So NFG, has plenty of damage now in the Corki and the Kaisa, and the LeBlanc pick is going to be coming out for ViperWeb to round out their comp.
Yeah, LeBlanc locked in. I'm a fan. Well, we knew that they needed the AP damage. It is more bursty than sustained damage. So LeBlanc going in and deleting a high priority target is going to be very important for ViperWeb to have successful fights. If she is not able to go blow up the Corki or the Kaisa, then it's not very likely that they're going to be able to win these prolonged team fights, where it's really just going to be frontline versus frontline, seeing who can keep their carry alive for longer, with Lucian contributing a little bit less in the late game fights than Corki and Kaisa will be able to. So a lot of pressure on the mid laner for ViperWeb to have a good game.
Yeah, I definitely think NFG won out on this draft. Both these teams picked huge front lines and, quite a bit of engage for their teams, but the side of NFG is going to be the side that's going to be able to get through these tanks faster. Lucian isn't known for tank shredding. He's known for early bullying, early to mid game bullying and, 1-2 items just in skyrocketing off that advantage. But Kais and Corki, the later this game goes, those two champions hurt the later this game goes, and Kaisa is known for that tank string ability. They both do hybrid damage, so it is kind of hard to itemize against them because of Corki's passive. The 80% of his auto attacks is AP, and Kaisa's passive is AP shredding of your health, and that's just a lot of damage coming out for NFG. So, if LeBlanc, sorry, I meant a lot of these fights are going to be decided on how LeBlanc positions. Because if LeBlanc doesn't blow someone up, they will just lose fights. And it's probably not going to be close. Because they just...
ViperWeb, very reliant on either snowballing the game out of control early on with getting LeBlanc roaming or breaking Lucian out of lane with a big advantage, or that she's just going to have to play the late game team fights extremely well in her target selection. And if that doesn't happen, then Kaisa and Corki just have a heyday and they shred this front line and the back line eventually of ViperWeb. Kaisa working really well with the All-Star, Sejuani, and Poppy. Lots of crowd control for her to work with. And I think that the champ select overall is favoring NFG very heavily.
Yeah, the bans come through, and if you're the side of NFG after that draft, you're probably feeling really good. The side of NFG isn't the team that has to push the tempo. They can just play back, play passive, let the game hit 25-30 minutes, and then they can just take team fights whenever they want and just win every team fight, right? It's the side of ViperWeb that's the one that has to push the tempo with this, the early game Lucian, your early mid game LeBlanc, who's trying to just get huge advantages and just take away with the game. If LeBlanc comes in this laning phase and at 20 minutes, she's has 0 kills to her name, 1 kill to her name. If you're NFG, you feel pretty good about that. Going into mid game.
And we just got in now the results from the voting, which I believe has just recently closed. So 60% of votes are going to NFG to close out the series, while 40% believe that ViperWeb Esports will pull off the upset. They'll come back, they'll do the reverse sweep, taking the next 2 games and end up with their first win of the split for season 5. So pretty close bidding, in all honesty. That so 60%, only a 20% difference in the two. There are going to be some happy people, there are going to be some sad people, but we have an entire season ahead of us for you to keep watching the stream, keep getting more points, and get back in there after you lose it all. So if you lose, don't be discouraged. Just keep coming back for more. You want
coming back. It's like gambling addiction. You can't stop. Just keep coming, betting all your points at us.
That's literally what it is. It's gambling. Unless you're putting points on White Lotus, that's never a gamble. That's always a sure thing. You can always count on a White Lotus win.
Wait, then you guys lose like 3 games last season, though.
Games, not a series.
No, you guys lost 2. Yeah, you guys lost 3 series. Don't even listen.
I'm not on the team.
Alright,
I'm not on the team.
So Davey Boy's just trying to take your money. He's the house. It's not 100%. Never is. The house always wins eventually.
The house always wins.
Oh, sorry, Jordan. Jordan told me it's 2, not 3.
Oh, before I forget, I want to give a huge shout out to Anne. I and Frank in chat coming back. Everybody, welcome Ann back. We're really, really glad that you made the return to GXPC, that you're back engaging with the chat. Shout out to Ann.
Pog champ
We missed you.
and
So
we
we
do
have
miss you and
5
your
seconds. Who do
memes.
you pick to win?
NFG.
I also pick NFG. I think they just have way more win conditions. Right after the break, we're coming back with Game 2 of NFG versus Team ViperWeb.
Operate Games XP in Decorah, Iowa. Games XP is a geek paradise. We carry everything from Pong and Atari all the way to Xbox One and PS4, and all the games that would go with those consoles as well. We also carry a ton of movies. We have handheld games. We have Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon. We have D&D and Pathfinder. We carry Warhammer 40K. We have a vintage Star Wars selection. This place is great. My wife and I have had 6 kids, and they are so much fun to work with here at the store. They run the store as much as I do.
And we now repair cell phones, game consoles, computers, and small electronics.
Our store is instant fun. Not only is there cool music and cool stuff to look at, but we have a game room that is so much fun. It's free to play, and you just plug in your game system and enjoy life. The Game XP motto is bringing joy to people's lives through our products, people, and a place to play. So you have got to come to Decorah, Iowa, and check out Games XP and experience this geek gaming paradise.
Alright, everybody, welcome back to Game 2 of NFG versus ViperWeb. NFG did win Game 1, and they are on blue side this game. ViperWeb is on the red side this game. And we have more pings from both teams into the bot side, so it looks like we might get some early action here. Ooh, baby. Getting spicy at level 1. This is what we like to see. Right
Just
here.
a
And
stack from NFG. You'll see if the face check
yeah,
comes.
there we go, and here it is, and the pulverize is going to get onto 4, and that's a W across everyone. The Decimate Smash does land on 5, Ignite does go down, so Trying does go down, and that is first blood for the Alistar.
That was a savvy stack. Very savvy stack from NFG.
Savvy.
You have to expect the Lucian Braum to want to do something, and they picked the right brush. So, pretty smart from that. Normally, I would say that they probably watched film or something to see the invade path, but yeah,
Well,
there are no
this
other
isn't a
games that they can
professional
watch.
team.
Well, also there have been no games.
Yeah, true. Also, so on the summoner side, Alistar blue Ignite, Lucian blue Heal, and Braum blue Flash. So it was a 2-for-1 trade in summoners as well. Alistar did get the first blood, not the best person to get it on, but first blood is first blood. So
Yeah, he got the control ward and boots, so
yeah,
he's got to
so
be somewhat
look,
happy with that.
Right, bot lane's over now.
And there's not much vision down for the junglers to start, as both teams were pretty committed to the invade. There's just that one ward in the top pixel brush for ViperWeb. So they might see Sejuani after taking the blue if she heads for the top scuttle. But other than that, it's going to be pretty much in the dark for these junglers pathing around. So the lanes are going to have to just take heed of that and play safe, or just count on their junglers' tracking skills and rely on that.
Yeah, in last game, Clancy did have, the better early game in the jungle, getting some pretty good invades off there. See if he can do the same thing. Get level 2s in the bot lane. It's a good headbutt away from the Alistar. Smiles going down. Braum and Alistar taking a lot of beating, but Braum going super low. Ignite comes down onto Alistar. Nunu is rolling his way in and isn't going to be able to catch. Oh, he does hit the Alistar with it, but not enough to kill. And that was pretty heavy trade from both sides. Both supports going really low, but I think this side of NFG did get the better trade of that. Better side
the
of that
only
trade.
summoner now available for ViperWeb is the Flash on Lucian, where NFG still has the Flash on Alistar, and then both the heal and the Flash for Kaisa. And so they're going to be more comfortable in this lane. Also, they aren't in any big hurry for this lane to progress, so they're happy to just sit on this summoner advantage. And Nunu's still poking around in the bot lane, but ends up wasting a lot of time just based on Sejuani's pathing, doing a full bot side clear to get to level 3 before backing. So the unsuccessful gank for Nunu ends up costing quite a bit of time, as he's still level 2. Sejuani getting small advantages here just from pathing and not spending time on ganks.
Yeah, and they did trade Scuttle Crabs and double skulls this way for anybody at least. It looks like Sejuani though is ahead of the tempo. Does have an extra camp on the Nunu, like you're saying. While you're going through your spiel there, I was looking at everyone's runes and stuff, and their summoner spells, and I think Corki, I think went something interesting. Like, I know teleport on Corki isn't terrible, and that's like what you go sometimes, but I think in the matchup versus LeBlanc, I think you want Cleanse. I'm pretty sure. I'm not the greatest mid laner in the world, but I'm pretty sure you would take Cleanse in that matchup for like the Ignite and the chains and stuff. That's just me.
I'm no mid laner in the first place, but there is a decent amount that you could cleanse out of, so I could see the Corki getting value outside of even just the LeBlanc kit, so I could see that being justified. And then in the top side, it's really just tank v tank. I don't expect much to go on in the top side there. Sign with a little bit of a more impactful level 6, but Poppy should be relatively safe up here, just wants to get tanky. Both of them trying to be a big frontline. LeBlanc kind of roaming a little bit here. Sejuani not able to collapse though.
Yes, so far, besides, the level 1 shenanigans, there hasn't been, too much action, just everyone, like, trying to farm up, and, all numbers are just about the same. Everyone's, really close to each other in CS, so no big differences, but, basically the only, like, real difference in CS is the Sejuani Nunu, where, Sedge is up a couple camps, but other than that, there's no huge advantages for either team.
And ultimately, with even gold, nothing else being affected, there is a 800 gold lead altogether for NFG, and they're going to be much more happy to sit around and to wait for the mid to late game to come. Blanco's in.
Yeah, and that's a good chunk of damage on the Corki. Corki also going down on mana, but he does have that teleport, so he can come back to lane pretty quickly.
And the pressure is definitely going to be on Team ViperWeb to make something happen in this early to mid game.
Nunu into the bot lane, rolling down with his big old snowball, and it's going to just nope right out of there, not seeing the gank happening.
It was a great deep ward placed a little bit earlier on, right by the Grump, that allowed them to sniff that out, and now Sejuani's on the top side, knowing that she's safe, and then they're going to have vision of this Nunu on the blue buff as well. So great deep ward there that allows bot lane to sniff that out and to just be safe. So they're doing a great job tracking the Nunu, making sure that they don't get that big play in the early game that they need to win.
Yeah, I know. Would the junglers find each other? Is it just gonna be a snowball and a walk away for the Nunu? So I do like Corki's itemization early on here. Does go Hex Drinker to make sure he doesn't get completely blown up by this LeBlanc.
Looks like it's going to be a pretty innocuous early game, favoring NFG, of course, and the Cloud Drake is going to be no help on that side. LeBlanc picking up the second blue buff here, so she's going to be happy to do that and can continue the mana sustain, maybe go for some more trades aggressively. She's going on it now.
Just like that, another chunk of Corki's health taken down, but he's trading right back if she wants to go aggressive, and that's a good sidestep with the W. Nunu is here, and that is a flash away from Twilight Mold to get out of that one. So we have our first successful gank of the game by, Hellguard here. And LeBlanc just keeps going in there. Another good trade. Does get the Electrocute Brock here, and the Corki getting a little bit low on health, and as well as his mana. And Nunu is back again, charging the snowball, and not going to be able to connect with that one. Alistar decides to roam mid, and will not get anything out of that attempt either.
Yeah, it seems like Nunu is kind of just trying to get ganks off wherever possible rather than prioritizing farm, which you can't really blame him for that with the lanes looking a little bit juicy, but everyone's just playing so safely on NFG and is able to stay back and not get engaged on. So they're doing a great job of tracking and just playing conservatively, understanding the limits of where they can push and how far they have to stay back, not giving any opportunities over to ViperWeb. And the back timers were great for this NFG bot lane, that when Lucian came back to lane, the waves were about even, but Kai'Sa was ahead about 12 CS. And so that lead has gone down a little bit here, but she's still sitting up about 8 or 9 CS. And they're passing off the blue buff to Corki so he can match that push from LeBlanc, as she is about halfway through her blue buff. And they get another deep ward on the red, so they will spot out this Nunu, and his life will not get any easier.
Yeah, another thing to add is, the Drakes, in this game and the last game haven't been, the best of RNGs for these two teams. That is another Cloud Drake, the third one we are going to have in this series right now. Sejuani is looking mid, maybe for a gank. Nunu is hovering. It looks like both junglers are just going to actually get their respective recalls off.
And that's a great point about the Drake also, because a lot of the times when you pick Nunu, you're hoping for that strong RNG to roll an Infernal or a Mountain or even an early Ocean, but instead they just get the Cloud this time, which is typically less favored. And when you have such a strong jungler that can solo objectives, you'd really like to get some of those impactful Drakes, but they just weren't lucky. So I'd really like to see Heltgard go and clear out the Drake, try and roll another one that would be a little bit more positive for their team. But right now he's behind 2 levels to Clancy in the jungle, 20 CS, so the early gank's really
And then
hurting.
Nunu is rolling down the bot lane. It's a flash from bomb and a good flash away from the Kai solution is going low now, but it looks like this is turnaround for NFG as the absolute zero will come down. A little bit of damage. Sejuani is stunned up. The heal will come out. Kaisa is trying to put some damage in the background. The heal comes out from her. Sejuani, Alistair going low. Braum also going low. One auto and the level up saves his life, but now Corki and the LeBlanc are here in the mid. It's a good flash. Twilight Mole is going to get Kira in the mid laner's trade. That's a double kill for the Corki as he's trying to do as much damage as possible, as that is a double kill for both mid laners on their roams down.
That's a pretty huge fight. That's kind of what we were waiting for. So Sejuani makes a very good rotation into the bot lane right as the Nunu is coming in for that original gank, but then they aren't able to turn it as much as they want, so it ends up being a 2-for-2 trade, which LeBlanc is probably going to like that quite a bit. The Corki still has the shutdown gold, where LeBlanc's is cleared off for whatever reason. Corki was the one who died. And so they both are about even in CS, both pick up the 2 kills, and Corki will have the Hex Drinker back up in a little bit and will be able to continue playing aggressive in the mid lane.
Alright.
Nunu just continues to look for these fights. I think that's what they're kind of going all in on, that team fighting option, because Heltgard right now is a little bit too far behind to catch back up with the Sejuani, who just farms so well. He might catch Nunu out right here.
Yeah, but Nunu is getting caught out here. Seems like a little bit of damage does come down, but nothing more, as the LeBlanc is there in the mid lane for his safe passage. But as we talk about that trade in the bot lane that happened a little bit ago, I think if I had to, I would give that advantage, even though it's 2-for-2 in both mid laners got, I think I would give the advantage to that trade to NFG, because they are the team that, they do scale harder, so the quicker they get to that scaling, the better it is for them. So if I was NFG, I wouldn't be too upset about the trade that happened in the bot lane, even if it was even, as LeBlanc's going to go down on the Corki, and that's a lot of damage that comes through as the chain did connect. And another electrocute proc, and Nunu is bot lane, is the 3v3, the killer instinct does come out, the Braum ulti will go down. Sejuani is going to zone off too, as Eldon Reno is going to TP and pick up his first kill of the game.
Sign is not able to follow as he doesn't have the TP available, but he gets 2 turret plates already, and is looking for more while this Cloud Drake is going over to NFG. Poppy won't be able to get back to defend that turret, but I don't think it's going to go down, as they do get very tanky the more plates that you take off. So
yeah,
I believe
here
Sign
we go,
will get
Lucian by himself, and here comes the dive, the headbutt, the pulve, and the W as everything lands, and he will go down. And this might be first tower for NFG, as 4 are hanging on this bot lane turret.
ViperWeb's coming back.
Yeah, and the Nunu is here, kind of dangerous. Absolute Zero is going to get interrupted, and the knock away from the Poppy, and that's a TP completed. Now they have everyone down here. All 5 from FG, as they are committing a lot to this first turret here. Corki does have package and is not going to be able to use it in an effective way.
The whole time, Region Pride in the top lane on this took the turret in the top lane, so they effectively trade bottom side for top side turret, with a few kills going over. Obviously, I think NFG gets the better of that. They get the first blood turret, as Sion was had to take a lot of time to get through 3 of those plates on the top side, even after the TP completed. So I think that about all that ViperWeb accomplishes there is that they force NFG to back up. And there's a gank here.
Oh, yeah, gank on Twilight mode. Chain does land. Ignite does come down. Hex Drinker is popped. And oh, that's a good flash forward to be able to trade. And that's a 2-for-1. Sejuani's going to be able to pick another kill. The headbutt stunned up. The stopwatch has come down. The unstop. The charge down from Sion. It will land. And El Dongarino is here. Another kill for Clancy. Onto the Braum. The knockup. The pull is going to come down. Killer Instinct does come through onto Lucian. The Bork active will go down. Sion and good 2-man decimating smash as he will disengage the fight, but another win for NFG.
NFG definitely coming out on top of that, and basically every member of both teams is rotating into these fights. It's really really good to see that the teammates are backing each other up and just keeps going back and forth. And I think, yeah, clearly NFG is pretty far ahead now. I think they traded 1 for 2 or 3 on that fight, so overcommitting a little bit. I believe that ViperWeb is starting to feel the pressure that in the late game they aren't going to be doing as well, and so they have to make fights happen right now. But unfortunately for them, they just aren't going the way that they need. They aren't getting the setup, and they aren't getting the rotations that are quicker to the fights by their teammates than by those of NFG. And I think that the next fight that we'll probably see is going to be around this Rift Herald if ViperWeb decides to contest that. But both mid lane towers still standing up. I think that it's very likely both teams will try to make a move for that Rift Herald, and hopefully we get another really big fight.
Yeah, and then, you know, that last fight, you know, Corky in that 1v3 getting, you know, hit by, you know, seemed like all the abilities that was thrown at him, it was able to still turn around, pick up a, you know, 1-for-1, that 1v3, and it looks like the Silent is going to get caught here, is going to be able to all the way from that one, but that is a big ulti down, and with that Rift Herald being up.
Yeah, that's their primary engage at the moment. They have the Nunu W and the Scion R, but with that down, Nunu is basically their only engage. They can look for a pick, but NFG, knowing that ultimate is down, they have all of their ultimates available, can jockey for this, and they can choose to take the fight with the Sejuani ult. Poppy's kind of taking...
Yeah, and it looks like the side of ViperWeb is not going to contest the Rift Herald, as, you know, NFG has gotten both Rift Heralds in this series.
And they do a good job of timing that Rift Herald take so that NFG doesn't, or excuse me, ViperWeb doesn't have a wave to crash into that mid turret, as they clearly wanted to do, but the timing just didn't work out.
Oh, and they're going to set it up early in the top lane. There's another snowball, not going to connect. A good dodge as the combo lands onto Braum, and he goes super low here. Sion is here. LeBlanc does go for the chain, does connect, and that is a good chunk of damage from LeBlanc, but she takes a ton of it back herself.
It looks like NFG is going to set up the tower here in the mid lane, and they also have the Infernal Drake coming up here that LeBlanc will be back on the map for, but they'd really like to take down this mid turret and then rotate over to that if they're able to, with all of their key ultimates available.
Yeah, as another dragon is now up, and you know the luck is on their side to this time around, as it is an Infernal Drake.
And so key ultimates are available. They can choose to either turn or they can disengage with the Poppy ultimate. The world is their oyster.
Yeah, but the Infernal Drake is already gone. The Poppy is going to be able to knock out nobody. She hits the Scion, gets knocked out. The Braum, you know, good ulti as everyone is onto the Corky and the Kaisa. Alistar does get blown up. Corky is stunned up. Sejuani trying to do what she can, but this is a good fight for ViperWeb as 3 will go down in exchange for only 1 member.
That was a great fight for ViperWeb. That Scion was able to make the Poppy ultimate completely useless. So presses ultimate right as the Poppy channels and casts her ultimate. So those are both traded, but then Poppy gets separated from the rest of their team, and there you see the Nunu coming in with the tankiness, getting on the back line and using that ultimate absolute zero to hold a lot of people in place so nobody is able to go back up the Poppy. And so the fight is very segmented, and Nunu does a great job of zoning, which allows the rest of the team to finish off Poppy and then join the rest of the fight and clean that up on the back end. So the Drake goes over, and they still have a small gold lead of about 1k advantage, but that's a good fight for Team ViperWeb. But we'll see if it's enough for them to get back into this mid game, because they're going to need a lot more fights like that to be relevant when we reach the late game.
Yeah, and I mean it's already 20.5 minutes here, and the 30-35 minute marker is going to be here before they know it. And I feel like ViperWeb's got to do something, as they are here, as they do get a pick onto the Alistar. Does go on LeBlanc, that she is 4-1-3 now, playing pretty well this game like he did last game. The Cassiopeia, Sejuani goes forward, and there's going to be no follow-up engaged in that fight.
What we've seen is that Team ViperWeb is having success when they're able to fight around objectives or when they're able to play around their vision. In that last pick on the Alistar, Nunu came in from a control ward and was able to catch him out of position at the right time. But that, and then around the fight around an objective, is the only times they've had success. Other than that, the Scion engage and the Nunu engage are just way too telegraphed, and NFG is able to safely back up and disengage just by walking away too often. So Team ViperWeb is really going to need to play around vision, play around the objectives really well if they're going to stay relevant as we reach the later stages of the game.
No, sorry, there I had the yawn. Nunu is rolling down. Sejuani will catch that one. She does get stunned up, does take a good chunk of damage. Glacial Prison just misses. Poppy does help her behind them, does get onto LeBlanc, does take quite a bit of damage. Calling already out. Poppy is rooted up, and looks like ViperWeb isn't done. As Nunu, another snowball, another dash forward from the Sejuani. The combo lands onto 2, as Nunu will go down here. The Clancy's Scion R is being charged up, will only hit actually 2, as that's an awkward flash forward. Lucian does get knocked away. The main damage source is gone. LeBlanc will pick one up onto Alistar, and at the end of this long fight, sorry, said too soon, they still want to fight. As LeBlanc goes in on Corki, it looks like she will go down. That is a shutdown for the Corki. A good flash from him. Sejuani, another knock up, and a good knock up into the wall by El Dongarino. Clancy picks up another kill in this fight onto the Lucian, and that is a 3-for-1, I believe. Did Nunu respawn? Is that 4-for-1? Like,
that was a 4-for-1. I can't blame you for losing your breath, because that fight went on forever, and they're not wasting any time. Immediately onto the Baron. Scion's there to contest it, and Nunu rolling up could potentially steal. Definitely outsmites the Sejuani.
Yeah, it is a level down, but with the consume smite can definitely steal it. He is rolling in here. He is going to get pulled up, and they're trying to finish, and it goes to Corki. No smite was used on it, and it looks like Nunu will go down. 21 love, another kill. Glacial Prison misses again. But in the end of the day, NFG decides to blow this game wide open with a teamfight win and Baron.
And there's a second Infernal coming up, but ViperWeb is very slow to rotate over to it, so this is going to be a 50-50 where NFG is going to be able to contest the Infernal. So they spend a little bit too much time going up towards the Baron after the fact, and I think they're going to give NFG time to set up for this Infernal Drake rather than being able to take it on the spawn. So we could have another fight very quickly after this, as Scion's back alive, and Nunu's going to be joining the fight quickly as well. So I can't wait for another fight. That last one was very, very well played by NFG. Maybe a little bit of an overcommit from ViperWeb, and they start up the Drake right now.
Yeah, and 2 Inferno's pretty huge. Scion's going to R4s, but the Dragon's already good. It's a combo onto Braum there, and he gets melted. Alistar's going to pick one up. That's a Deathbang Smash on the 3. Nunu is here. LeBlanc is getting here late, but Kaisa and Corki are kiting back, destroying everyone. It's a beautiful headbutt, as they're going to be able to trade one back. Corki with another kill into the block, and that's a nice flash from El Dongarino onto the Lucian, as that's a double kill for the Kaisa. Killer Instinct forward onto Scion, triple kill for 21 Love.
Yeah, that is a real bummer. I think it's a significant misplay from ViperWeb that instead of giving up the Baron and rotating over to the Drake, that they kind of get caught dragging their feet, and they're late going to the Drake. They aren't able to set up the vision that they need to team fight around it. And losing a team fight when the opponents have Baron is just devastating, as they're going to push for the inhibitor turret here, and they just team fight very well.
Yeah, and this gold lead turned to 7K real fast. And if you look at the stats on the side of I mean, their late game power spikes just came 10 minutes earlier than they were supposed to, as they just got a lot of gold in their pockets over the last few minutes.
If you look at the bounty gold right now, I'm no mathematician, but I think that's close to 2,000, or that's I don't know, like 1,500 or something like that. That's a lot of gold. It might be 2,000. Somebody do the math. I don't have time. I'm busy.
So guys, this is about 1,800 gold on Lucian. Corky's got about 1,500 gold onto the LeBlanc. Poppy's got about 2.6k up on Nunu. And actually, Poppy is down in gold by 400.
That's okay. Poppy can be a low economy, but El Dongarino had a great ultimate in that last play to make sure that the fight was segmented, to pop out. I forget which one it was, but they isolated a frontline target and were able to burst Nunu down right at the beginning of that fight, or after.
Oh, and this is a flank from Sion. Another fight. Flash bomb R. The snowball does hit Kaisa, but Corky is able to package away. And Kaisa and Corky are free hitting untouched in this fight, as LeBlanc and Nunu will go down, as the members of NFG are completely healthy here, and they might look to try to end.
Yeah, I think this could potentially be game. Just not a great time to fight for ViperWeb. A little bit impatient on that front. They might be turret diving some of these members here in the next minute or so.
Yeah, and it's going to be 3v5 for another 13 seconds on Nunu, 14 seconds on LeBlanc now. Decimating Smash onto 2. Interesting play there at All-Star, but I think he's just trying to have a little fun here at the end of this game, as they are hitting the Nexus to try and pad some stats maybe. And NFG will take this series 2-0 in a clean fashion.
Yeah, they just did a great job team fighting, playing around objectives. This game didn't give ViperWeb the opportunity to come back into the game, so much cleaner game 2 than game 1. And they just do a great job of closing out that series, picking up the first win of the season. So the returning team stands strong here in week 1.
Yeah, and I mean, after what looked like a super back and forth game 1, the game 2 did look really clean, much more dominating performance in under 30 minutes. And when you have the late game scaling comp and you get ahead like you did in that game, it gets fairly easy to close out games. So this is a very impressive win by the G, coming out strong in their first series of the season 5. I had a wonderful time casting this game, but before we go any further, I was promised I was allowed to say this, so I'm going to say it. Shut up, Nick. If you live in Texas and in or around the Dallas-Fort Worth area, there is 9 train stations opening across. They are giving out free train rides from Fort Worth to Dallas for the next month. So please go ride my train, because it's beautiful and I worked really hard on it.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, guys.
Gonna fly out just to ride on your train.
Dude, please do.
Anyway, we have one last matter of business to attend to beyond the trains. So if you can put that in the back of your mind and bring, just for a little bit, if you can get that out of your mind, we still have an MVP to pick from NFG Esports.
From NFG Esports.
From NFG Esports. So What are we gonna be getting from you, S Commander / Replay?
Let's see. I mean, after the roughish game 1 and then going into game 2, and if she did look better, I would probably give mine to 21 Love, because in the game 1 at the end, he did come up pretty big in the last team fight that won him the game, and then in that game 2, he did look much more comfortable on the Kaisa and played a hell of a lot better than he did game 1.
I could definitely see 21 Love. I would agree with you on that, with an honorable mention to Clancy. Of course, picking my my one trick, the Sejuani. He's doing a little bit of a Kairos Season 4 cosplay today, picking Sejuani in
God.
2 of 2 games. So
No.
looking pretty good. Had to give the shout out as kind of an honorable mention. But 21 Love, let's go ahead and get him in here for the interview. Hey, how's it going?
Oh.
Congratulations on your
He
first
was
one of the
just
season.
right in here.
Thank you.
Welcome to the show.
All right, coming into this game, your first series of the new season here. How did you guys feel coming into this?
Well, I mean, the scrims we played before, we were definitely like starting to like we're all very new to each other, so we have to like, I don't know, like we're just starting to build our synergy together, and it's just getting better and better. And we came in here hoping that our synergy would just like be better, and it definitely did.
All right, sounds good. So after game 1 was a lot of back and forth between both teams. And finally pull out a victory. How going into game 2, how were you guys able to talk amongst yourselves and clean up some of the stuff between game 1 and game 2, which looked much cleaner?
I guess it's just I don't know, just comfort picks, I guess. I mean, just talking to myself, like I'm definitely like way more comfortable on Kaisa than Caitlyn. So, and then our team comp was way better than the first game. So yeah.
All right. I'm really bad at this. I usually get banned from doing these. So Davey, take over.
Just sit in the back seat here. I can take it the rest of the way.
All
So with the mostly new roster coming in, I think the only returner who started tonight was El Dongarino, who was on the NFG roster last season. How are you guys building synergy, and what has the process been putting together a new roster? Kind of what were the pieces that came into place, and how are you feeling now compared to when you originally started playing together?
Well, we're definitely feeling like, I mean, we're still getting there. Like we played a couple scrims before, and those games weren't that great, but definitely the game, like these games, we just totally like got our shit together.
Nice. Well, moving forward, are there any teams on your side of the bracket or the other side of the bracket that you are most looking forward to facing in the coming weeks?
I mean, I haven't even looked at the roster for other bracket, honestly.
You know what that means. You need to watch the stream. That's all that means. Watch more games, listen to us, get those viewer counts up. That's the most important thing. And then I think lastly, replays if you don't have anything else.
Last thing, is there anything you want to say to the people watching?
That's what I was gonna ask him. So
hey,
you're all right.
I guess just watch out for us, you know.
all right.
That is the most threatening. Wow, that
Was there a question mark at the end of that? Like...
So you all heard it here first. Watch out for NFG, maybe. If you want to, it's kind of a polite, like a Canadian. Watch out for us. It sounds like. So 21 Love, congratulations on the first win, clean sweep.
Thank you.
Look forward to casting more games of you guys down the road.
All right, I appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
All right, wrapping up here. Do you want me to put a bow on it?
Oh, dude, I always do this part. It's my favorite part.
All right, you put the bow on it. I'll let you have this one.
Thank you everybody for watching. A good win from NFG with the 2-0, their first game in the series, season. I can't wait to do this more. I'm really excited to be back. Make sure that you follow, subscribe, donate. It helps everyone at GXPC. If you are playing, it even makes the prize pool bigger, insane, and you help everyone else here. And we appreciate everyone coming watching. I've noticed that the stream count has been getting higher and higher, and it's actually super amazing. And it makes me want to cast these games more and more when I see 50, 60 people watching these. So I'm very excited and super glad everyone came out here. I am done for today. It was appreciated. I appreciate David coming out here with me and casting. It was really nice and it felt good to do. So I am done. Good night, everyone.